We can, I mean, a
Get
couple
close
minutes
enough.
early, but
Shall we start?
yeah, let's go for it.
Hey, we'll start if you want us to start. If you don't want us to start, we can keep talking about science fiction for another 2 minutes.
Or that could be the panel, but I'm assuming most of you came here to learn about how to deal with Hangover. I guess we should start by introducing ourselves. I'm Joshua. I go by MarthWMaster on the forums. What? Oh, okay.
You're the fan club. Accept it.
I'm Rochelle. I'm known on most forums as SaphyreMisery.
I'm Scott, and I also go by Lefty.
And I'm Kevin Trainer. I'm not on the forums, unfortunately, but I go way back with Anime Detour, and back to before there was an Anime Detour, in fact. And before that, I was in science fiction media fandom since about the 70s. So I have a lot of experience dealing with what it's like when you go home from the convention and the stuff that happens after you go home from the convention. So hopefully I can provide a little input and a little context.
So I guess, we don't really have a format, but the first thing we need to talk about is what exactly Hangover is, and and how it's defined, I guess.
I think of it more as the feeling you wake up Monday and you have to go to local school and you realize, oh, sure, I can't sit around and watch anime all day.
Yeah, it's basically you spent 3 days in Fantasyland and now you're back in real life and everything seems kind of dull.
Yeah, either that or you feel like you've spent 3 days in reality and now you're going back to a kind of a horrible, mundane sort of existence among people that don't really understand you. And I think that's the crux of it right there. All this weekend you've been among people with similar interests, people that don't look at you strange if you have blue hair or pinkish orange hair, or if you're going around in cat ears or a Flash t-shirt. Although, to be honest, there's a lot less of that kind of transitional feeling than there used to be, especially once you're out of high school. How many of you are in high school right now? Okay. To steal a phrase from Greg Ayer's panel, it does get better. A lot of the social weirdness of high school, a lot of the cliques and stuff like that, it goes away once you get out into college and the real working world, because there literally is no time for that crap. You have stuff to do, and it does. It depends what kind of environment you move into, but by and large, if you go out and you're working a 9-to-5 job, if you go into the military or whatever, nobody has time for that anymore. But you're still, because the whole process of transitioning from your fanish life to your mundane life isn't as cut and dried as it used to be. Now it's not considered weird for grown-ups to read comic books or watch movies about comic book heroes, or as Star Wars and Star Trek changed everything in the 70s and 80s. Suddenly it was socially acceptable to watch TV shows about passionless, logical aliens with pointy ears. And I think we saw a little bit of that when Leonard Nimoy died. It wasn't just fandom mourning him. It was pretty much everybody, So, we won the culture war. There's still people that are going, oh, you're reading Batman? But there are a lot less of those people than there used to be, and they're not as influential as they used to be. So it's not as difficult to make the transition anymore when you go home from Detour or Convergence or whatever, and you got to go back to work. But it's still there because, let's face it, this is a 2-3 day long party. You can rock all night, sleep all day if that's what you want to do. You can hang out, you can dance in the hallways to a point. You can dress up how you want to be, and nobody really cares. But Monday morning, You got to go back to work at Wells. You got to be business casual. You got to take the cat ears off, unhook the tail from your pants, and carry on.
I also think
and it's a strain.
I also think that even though it's more acceptable to be kind of in the geek fandom, the anime fandom in particular is very niche, even within the geek community. If you look at Convergence, how many go to Convergence?
Don't all hold your
Can
hands up at
anyone
once,
still
please.
Yeah,
maybe
we can
not.
hear.
Okay. Well, just I don't see any visibility of anime at Convergence, except for the Theater Nippon.
And some of the room parties.
Yes.
Anime Twin Cities has a room party. And
That is true.
Yeah.
Oh, and Anime Twin Cities.
Our fabulous parent company.
Yes.
Right. I was one of the ways that you can deal with Con Hangover is not leaving it to to just the big cons each year. What?
Oh,
Oh,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. ATC is running stuff year-round, events, get-togethers, not 3-day extravaganzas. I cannot talk today.
Would you like some more water? We got water.
No, I've got water, it's just,
It's early.
The English is a very difficult language, yes, early in the morning.
I didn't really obey much of the advice I intended to give today, last night.
Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, exhibit 1.
avoid a physical hangover.
Right.
And that's actually very solid advice, because part of what's going on when you leave the convention and go back into what some of the older literary science fiction fans used to refer to as the Dane Law, where the mundanes are, is to broaden your network of friends and keep tabs with the people you went to the convention and hung out with. Get involved in things like ATC's SOS program. Go out and be a little more social with the rest of anime fandom. And it doesn't have to be just anime fandom. Something that drives me absolutely nuts about a lot of old school fans is they've got this really blinkered mentality that if you don't know what the great books of science fiction are, you're not a real fan. If you don't know who these authors are, and it kind of, to me, that misses the whole point of geek culture. A lot of us are into science fiction and fantasy, but we didn't necessarily get there through the books. Yeah, I did, but I understand, because back in my day, that was pretty much what there was. There were the books, there were the magazines, and maybe once in a while there'd be this movie or TV show that would come on for like half a season or 3 seasons and then vanish. But
Like Firefly.
like the original Star Trek. People forget, these days Star Trek is kind of part of the fandom furniture, but people forget that the original Star Trek only ran for 2 seasons on NBC, and the network was going to cancel it, and the fans went bonkers. They wrote NBC, and NBC said, well, maybe the Nielsen's weren't correct. Maybe we need to give it a 3rd season. And the rest, as they say, is history. But yeah, a lot of people came into science fiction through Star Trek, even more through Star Wars, and then we started getting things like Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica, and you started seeing all kinds of science fiction and fantasy shows on TV, Charmed, Buffy, Angel, all of those shows, and this is how people came into fandom, because they, all of a sudden there was this really cool show about this girl going out there and kicking the ass of vampires and demons and whatever the monster of the week was, and they wanted to talk to somebody about it. And there was the internet, and the internet told them, hey, there's a group of people getting together at this convention and it's such and such a hotel in your city. And, they went. And the old school fans are like, who are these people? And some of them never really adapted, but there's a lot of us that have multiple interests, just because we're anime fans doesn't mean we can't appreciate Xena or the new Battlestar Galactica or
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Hell yeah, you know, all of this stuff, and it's kind of limiting when you run into people that you know just don't want to deal with that just want to concentrate on their one little area, you know. But having said that, if you don't reach out to other people to find out if you know if they share your interests or if they have parallel interests or you know or stuff like, or even if they can turn you on to something cool that you may not have even known about. You know, anime was like that for me. I was a science fiction fan. I read the books, saw the movies. I got into Star Trek and all that. And you know, one day in '97, when I was working back east on a contract, a couple of my friends grabbed me and said, "You need to see this. This is the most awesome thing ever." And they sat me down and they showed me Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky.
Oh, that's a great
And
one.
I was like, holy shit. Because the only anime I'd seen before that was Kimba the White Lion and Speed Racer and, you know,
Astro Boy.
and I never saw Robotech. Robotech was actually after my time. And there was one year I went to a convention in Pittsburgh and saw this incredibly cheesy movie called Space Battleship Yamato. And I still remember seeing that, and because I was a naval history freak when I was a kid, and I remember seeing the scene where the Yamato is under attack by the Gamelons, and it's on, and the superstructure is on fire, and the flames are leaping on. I'm going, wait a minute, they're in vacuum. How the hell is this happening? You know, but it was still cool. You know how it is when you go to a movie and you know the science is messed up, but you don't care because the story is cool. That's how I felt about it, and they showed me that. They showed me Kiki's Delivery Service and Gunsmith Cats, which is kind of an old school ADV anime. If you haven't seen it, you really should, because it's, you know, Riley Vincent is fucking awesome. Pardon my language, but she is. And I was hooked. I started showing I borrowed the copy of Castle in the Sky and Kiki, and I showed it to my kids, and we started watching anime together. And you know, the next thing I know, I'm at this convention, and people are asking me, well, we don't have the badges are falling out of the badge holders. What do we do? You know, so.
Geek Publishing Society is also a good place to go. If you have an interest, they probably have a club to do it.
Yeah.
There was like an archery club, there was an anime club, we meet second and fourth Fridays. There was a Geek Read, there was a comic club.
Also, and a lot of this advice is stuff that you won't necessarily be able to apply this year in this con, but can do in the future. I've found, I mean, for those of you who are out of school, I guess this really only applies to you, but make sure if you can to take the day after the con off of work, because you need a day to kind of decompress, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
And upload those photos and exchange stories with friends either online or well, it's all online now, I suppose now.
No, it's better if you can get like half a dozen friends together and just hang out and decompress together the day after the con, and you know, swap stories and kind of wind down, you know. And if you don't have a half a dozen friends that you can hang out with after the convention, start making some. You know, reach out a little bit. It's hard for a lot of us because a lot of us are, you know, maybe we might not be completely autistic, but we have problems relating to other people, and you just have to make the attempt. You have to reach out. You have to talk to other people, and find out who's in your neighborhood. You know, who shares your interests. Who are the people you'd like to hang out with, and start doing it. You know. Have a half a dozen people for the convention come home to your apartment and hang out together for a few hours after the convention. You know, do a dead dog of your own.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Or if you're like me that has to work exactly the next day, like my new job starts at 5:30
a.m. on Monday.
You have my sympathies.
Thank you. What I do is I go home, I don't even bother unpacking right away. I'll just bust out my laptop, set it up, curl up in my jammies, and just watch anime until I fall asleep. That's how I unwind. I just watch something that has my interest and I just relax, or I'll go through the photos on my phone and just start uploading them to Facebook. Because I don't have that luxury to have a day off.
Not everybody does, this is true.
This is what happens when you become adults. You have to be responsible.
I don't want an adult.
I don't want to adult either. That's why I come here, because I don't have to adult.
Yeah, it is kind of a nice escape from responsibility for a few days. For a few days, I don't have to talk about taxes if I don't want to. And believe me, when you get to this point in the tax season, and that's what your job is, it's a very real relief, just to not have to deal with whatever it was you're doing before you came here.
But what's nice is where I work at the airport, so sometimes I see people from conventions flying in and then they fly out.
Yep.
So I get to say hi to them, get to chat for a few minutes. That's a nice way to relax too.
Yep.
Seeing people that you're seeing.
Did you hear they're building an anime float for the Gay Pride Parade?
I did.
I
I need to
didn't.
get that day off.
The geekpartnerships.org is partnering with Anime Twin Cities and building a anime parade for the Gay Pride, and they actually asked the cosplayers from this convention to join. So look it up on
Where do I sign up?
geekpartnership.org.
Where do I sign up?
More
I want
information
to.
at geekpartnership.org.
Thank you.
We will sign up and we will completely destroy the city.
Gentleman in the back.
And speaking of the Geek Partnership Society, that is an awesome group to stay connected with local nerds, because that is what they do, keeping us all in contact with each other and organizing events all the time.
It's going to be a picnic sometime in June, I forget the Saturday.
Yeah, stay in touch. Watch the websites for GPS and Anime Twin Cities and Detour, because the closing ceremonies is the end of the convention, but it's not the end of your fandom. You can maintain throughout the year, as it were, because you're not really alone, and I think that's the real message of fandom. Even in the days before the internet, you're part of a community of people that have very similar interests, and you can share those interests and talk about those interests, and you don't have to do it just at the convention anymore.
And now in the Twin Cities, there's several dozen different conventions, so if you want to keep going to conventions, it's expensive, but there's at least 1 or 2 conventions every month now.
Yeah.
I mean, it really depends on how much you can afford to go to these things. There's hotel expenses, or if you're, commuting, or, I hate that word, because it associated with the work.
Well,
But the cost
it
of
is what it
gas,
is, yeah.
and, there's expenses for adding cons to your schedule, but it is nice to have more than one thing a year, so that, you're not looking, well, a whole year will have passed before I get to do this again. You could, if you do Convergence or Anime Minneapolis or
Anime Fusion.
Anime Iowa,
yeah,
if you want to go out of town.
yeah, you're looking at the next con. It's only a few months away. It's a matter of weeks rather than more weeks.
Question?
Just because you brought up Anime Fusion, is it a very good, specifically anime convention? Because I was looking up some conventions that people have mentioned, because, like you said, it is kind of hard to only do this once a year. So I was looking into ones that I could possibly get into now, but I don't always know if they're going to be very good or not.
Fusion is Anime Iowa, which in a lot of ways is one of the parents of Anime Detour. We drew a lot of the things we do here at Detour actually stem from things that we saw or participated in Anime Iowa. Like, I'm not ashamed to admit the volunteer system we have here, where we reward people for volunteering. We took that straight from Anime Iowa with their blessing.
because a lot of the older conventions, a lot of the older science fiction conventions kind of treat volunteering as your civic duty. You're part of the convention, therefore you should volunteer time. And you know, I think that kind of crap went out with the Carter administration, which would be before most of you were born. I think that when you volunteer, you're doing a service to the convention, you're doing a service to your fellow convention members. All of this is true, but that doesn't mean it's not work that's worth rewarding. And as I used to say to the staff in the old days, you know, we can't afford to pay you what you're worth for doing this work. The least we can do is feed you, and which we did. And with the volunteers, it's the same way. We cannot possibly afford to pay everyone for the work they do, badging, helping out in con suite, you know, running around being gophers, helping out guest relations and stuff like that. But we can make sure that there's some reward for you besides getting a cool T-shirt and a cool T-shirt and an invitation to a picnic later. You know, it's part of our ethos. We want to make sure people get something for helping out because it's our way of saying thank you.
I went to Anime Fusion twice, and it was really fun.
A lot of times a convention is what you make of it. I mean, if you go there and you're expecting to be like a passive consumer of entertainment, it's not always going to be a good experience because half the reason to go to a convention is to be social, to get to meet other people and discuss the things you love together, or the things you hate together, you know, depending on how you look at these things. So I think that if you volunteer, if you participate in panels, if you take an active part of the convention, you're going to have a better time than if you're just coming in and just kind of drifting around and not really engaging with anyone, you know. And it's going to make it. It's not going to be as good a time for you, and it's not going to diminish the feeling of being alone between detours. You know, so.
Like, I mean, you know, the video rooms are great, you know, but you can, you know, and it's nice to be in the room with other people watching the same thing. You know, you can watch anime anywhere. Not necessarily true about, you know, going out and talking about anime with just anybody. But building that circle of friends again, you know, and just having people you can, you know, relate to, sharing common interests year round is, you know, it's not always quite at this energy level, but it's still harboring that appreciation for the fandom.
Yeah. I think it's important to realize that most of the really good and exciting and positive things about a convention are the very things that cannot be duplicated somewhere else. I mean, if you're coming to a convention just to hit the dealer's room, you're doing it wrong, because I'm here to tell you there is very little in the dealer's room that you can't find online. If you're coming here just to watch anime, you're doing it wrong, because there's Crunchyroll, there's Hulu, there's YouTube, there's, you know, the studio's own channels on the internet. You know, the real reason to come to a convention is the people, you know, and to be social and to show off your cosplay and if that's the way your interests run, or conversely to see other people's cosplays. I don't cosplay myself. I don't think I have the body for it. I definitely don't have the skills to put together a decent costume. But I enjoy seeing other people in the halls. There is some awesome work out there. You know, you can look at people and you know they didn't just buy this off the rack. These people have sweated blood to make these costumes.
Some of these people are in this room, by the way.
Yeah. I'd like to thank those of you who are wearing your cosplay in the hall, because
man, it's really cool.
Saturday nights, Ego Anime also has anime showing. Usually it's 6 hours, and it's last time I was there, we watched Golden Time. It's like a soap opera type thing.
Oh, no, call. This is a digression, but I just have to say, calling Golden Time a soap opera is a disgrace to, Golden Time's amazing.
Well, you know, soap opera is not necessarily a negative term. I mean, you know, professional wrestling for decades has been called soap opera for guys. You know?
Yes.
I can see that.
I suppose-
Tune in next week. Will Batista do a face heel turn and desert his friends? Next week on Worldwide Wrestling. Yeah. They don't do it like that, but you should. They would. So yeah, conventions are a social thing. They were originally created so that people who knew each other only through reading the letters that were posted in science fiction magazine columns could get together and talk about science fiction. And you know, we're kind of heirs to that tradition. We see a lot of us probably got to know each other originally through the internet, seeing posts on Facebook or convention forums or whatever, and you know, we showed up at the convention to see what these other people were really like. You know? And most of the time it's a pleasant experience. I mean, that's part of the reason I keep coming back to Detour. I mean, I live in the DC suburbs now. You know, it would make.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it would make a lot more sense for me to go to like Anime USA or Katsucon or Otakon, but holy crap. The idea of standing in a registration line again to get into a 15,000 person convention where I don't know hardly anybody, no. Yeah, I know for a lot of people that's a cool thing, that's the thing they want to do, but it's not for me. That's not where my friends are. It's not the convention I grew up with. I mean, this is the convention I grew up with, really. And that's why once a year, you know, I make my plans. I you know, go to Southwest.com 3 months at a time, get the cheap fares, and I make my plans to take a week out of tax season and come up here.
Detour's family.
It is.
You got the people you avoid, you got the people you tackle, you got the people you just stalk, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's Cousin Fred. We don't talk to Cousin Fred because once you start talking to him, all you're going to hear for the next 24 hours is Gundam. You know?
Not that there's anything wrong with Gundam.
No. I'm just using it as an example. I mean, we certainly don't actually know any people like that.
Well, there was just a Lego Gundam in this room.
That was awesome.
Which is actually cool, yes.
Yeah, that's dedication.
That is. You gotta admire something like that. Wow. Even if you're not into Gundam, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
How do you recover from spending so much money?
Overtime and a second job.
Yes. To quote that great philosopher, Emilio Lizardo, work. The only joy is the joy of duty. Get to work. Earn some money.
And just to add to that, get your tax refund after the con.
Yes. This man is wise. Yes.
I learned after my first con, budget.
Yes.
I put all my money that I made in tips in a jar, and I just saved it that way. So whatever cash I had on hand, that's what I have to spend in the dealer's room. Once that cash is gone, I mess out.
Yeah.
My bank card stays at home, so I don't touch it.
This is wisdom. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, if you get a paycheck, take a couple bucks out of your paycheck, like a 20, put it in a jar, and put a label on the jar, dealer room money. So that way, that's all you have. Whatever cash you bring, that's it. That's all you've got to spend for 3 days, and make it
stretch.
And
Prioritize, which is part of budgeting. You really need to sit down and say to yourself, what?
Something laughed down here over your phone.
Yeah, it's Kefka.
Scared the shit out of me. I thought I recognized that laugh.
Is there
That's
an
why I
animal under the table? Yeah, prioritizing and budgeting. I mean, they're annoying adult skills, but this is how rich people get rich and stay rich. They prioritize, they budget, and there's no reason you can't make that work for you. You know, plan ahead. Decide what your priorities are going to be at the convention. You know, what are you looking for besides, you know, hanging out with other anime nerds? You know, what do you want for the convention? Do you want to go there and have one of the artists in Artist Alley do a commission for you? Do you want to pick up a particular wall scroll for a particular series? Do you want to blow your wad at the charity auction? Carrie Savage would be immensely happy if that was your decision, but I can't make that decision for you, and neither can she. But, you know, but consider it. Yeah.
And don't be like me and spend $40 on stupid expense on Friday.
Well, you know.
I mean, but it was worth it. But
Was it an impulse buy, or were you thinking about doing it before you came?
I was like, I love Steven Universe, I love Reddit, I need a bunch of pictures of them. And so it was worth it, but then I was like, oh man, look at that Madoka figurine.
Garn? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Garnet?
Garnet from Steven Universe, I got a bunch of prints of her. She's my absolute favorite. I love her so much.
Also, don't spend $20 on a Legend of Zelda print you also bought last year and forgot about it.
Yes, the ever-present inventory problem, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and also prioritize how you pack, because I did not do that, so I've got my suitcase, I've got my prop, I just bought a sword plus a bag with all my wigs in it, so I didn't prioritize too well. That's a big thing, you need to prioritize. That's a great way to con hangovers too, because you're stressing out all the crap you have to carry.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the fortunate things about having to fly in here, is that you know ahead of time that you're only going to get 2 carry-ons, and in my case, one of those is going to be the nose hose, because I don't dare ship that. And that really puts a limit on what you can pack for the convention. I mean, I have another rolling suitcase at home that's full of Anime Detour shirts from years past. You know, I can't bring all of them, and you know, it's kind of frustrating. But you have to prioritize. You have to decide what you're going to wear. You know, if are you going to have enough room after you pack that stuff into your suitcase to fit your underwear? You know, clean socks. You know, all of this sort of thing. I mean, it seems horribly mundane, but you know, you do need to plan ahead. You need to think about what you're going to bring and what you're going to pick up at the convention. Otherwise, you're going to be the person trying to check out on Sunday at noon, who's, you know, staggering under the weight of their baggage and trying to figure out where the baggage carts are because you've got too much stuff.
That's another good way to cure all con hangovers, to make sure you plan appropriately, because it's going to stress you out, and stress is what I consider part of the hangover.
It's a big part of the hangover. Yeah, there's the stress of not being in friendly, familiar surroundings. You know, going back from that to the Danelaw, and you know, you don't need any additional stress on top of that. So, to the extent that you can plan, to the extent that you can budget, to the extent that you can prioritize what you're going to do and what you're going to bring, it reduces the stress on both ends of the convention, and that's what you want to do, reduce the stress.
Are there any methods we haven't talked about that you guys would like to bring up? Just anything you found.
When you're like in the artist alley or the dealer's room, like look around everywhere first before like spending something. If you only have a limited amount of money, it's like when you spend your money on something, maybe it's like, oh, but I really wanted that instead. I think what you mentioned, and it's like, yeah, you don't want to regret something. You tell something else was better.
Other than that, you can find better deals. Like literally this Friday, I went into the dealer's room, hide shoe $2. I was like, okay, I know there's a place where there's where it's $1 somewhere. Find it. I buy 2, and then right next to it, $5 for 6 of them. Better deals, people.
Yeah, shop. I mean, it's a kind of a hard thing for us guys because guys mostly have this mindset, and I know I'm being horribly stereotypical here. Denounce me later. Most guys, we go shopping for things with the plan, we're going to go in, we're going to get it, we're going to get out. Because for most of us would rather be crucified without wood or nails than engage in a 6-hour shopping trip, whether it's to the Mall of America or the dealer's room, doesn't matter. We don't want to be just kind of going along, looking at this and trying on that. We want to go in, we want to get that Wraith mask, we want to get out.
So we know just what we want to buy when we make the trip over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you had a question?
Oh, I was just gonna say another great thing to do is almost every dealer or artist at Artist Alley is gonna have their own business card. So if you see something you can't afford right now, don't be bummed out. Take their card, they're probably gonna have it online.
Yeah. Same thing goes for commissions. If you see an artist whose work you like, but they don't have what you specifically are looking for, you know, grab the card and touch base with them later, because you know a lot of these people, you know, they're not averse to doing work between conventions by any stretch of the imagination. You know, they want commissions, and conversely they'll let you know if they don't do commissions. But yeah, touch base with, take the business cards. Talk to them later online and find out if they'll do the thing you want them to do.
Also, you know, like tabletop gaming, the places like Fantasy Flight Games in Roseville. That's huge game space, also a restaurant and also a bar, I think.
Yeah, and most towns have a gaming store like this.
The Source, north of the State Fair.
Yeah, that's within like miles of Fantasy Flight, or at least it used to be.
It's like 2 or 3 miles.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm personally very much into the tabletop gaming.
Oh, I know that Level Up Games also has quite a few groups that go online every day because they used to do time.
Cool.
They also have pinball.
Oh yeah. I never had a chance to use that. Really? Oh,
There is another thing that goes on in Twin Cities. It's called Twin Cities Garu. It is a live-action role-playing game for Werewolf the Apocalypse. That is where I first started learning about cosplay, because I had to design my own character and make a costume for her. And from there, one of them brought me to my first anime convention, which was Detour in 2008 at the Thunderbird. And that's what started my rolling into all this. It is it's a fun group, fun community. A lot of them are convention goers. The majority of them are convention goers. I've run into about 5 of them during this entire convention.
It's kind of odd that I'm not into the LARP scene myself, but it's kind of odd that we don't have a LARP going on at Detour.
It would have been fantastic.
It seems weird that we don't, all things considered.
I'm actually thinking about contacting Twin Cities Garu and seeing if they'd be interested in doing LARP grouping here.
Do it.
I will. But seriously, if you want to keep the whole cosplaying aspect and just having fun with people that know what you like, check out Twin Cities Garu. It's really awesome. Can't remember the name of the church, but they play in a church, and I think it's $10 for an entire month to go. It's every other Saturday. So I think it's the first Saturday and 3rd or 4th Saturday. It's fantastic.
Yes.
I actually found out about going to a convention from a conventions page on Facebook. I was asking around on there, seeing if anyone goes to any others, and I actually grouped up with some people and went to NDK in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that was pretty fun.
They're supposed to be really good.
It's good, but the lines, no.
The lines have lines?
hour-long waits.
Yeah, that's what put me off Otakon. I mean, I've been out in Otakon's neck of the woods for about 8 years now, and my niece used to go before she joined the Air Force, and I went up and retrieved her a couple of times, and yeah, you talk about lines to get into the lines. Oh my God, it's too big. It's just too big. I mean, it takes up the entire Baltimore Convention Center, and which is it's bigger than the Minneapolis Convention Center, if you can imagine that. It's just gigantic.
But I mean, when you're in those long lines, don't you find you can like converse with people?
Oh yeah, you do wind up talking to people, but
There's nothing to do for an hour.
yeah, I think it's I don't know if it's an East Coast thing or what, but out here I've gotten into conversations with people that I've been waiting in line with and talking to just when I've been badging and stuff like that, and we stay in touch. You know, I mean, maybe not close touch. I mean, like we're not real close friends or anything, but we stay in touch and we say hello to each other at conventions and stuff like that. And none of the people I met at Katsucon last year, I'm not in touch with any of them. You know, not even on Facebook, where it's a trivial matter to like somebody else and follow their feed. It's kind of, you know, I don't know. I don't have a word for it.
I'm a part of a Facebook anime club, and I'm actually supposed to be watching. We have an anime series I'm supposed to be watching. I got about 15 seconds into it so far, unfortunately. But yeah, that's a neat group too.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that, you know. The anime everybody's crazy about, you turn it on for 5 minutes and you go, yeah, no. Love Blue Girl, for example. Oh my God.
You too, huh?
Tentacle prawn, yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I don't know if it's the worst. I mean, I'm sure there's other stuff out there. Yeah, I don't want to know. that was bad enough. Oh my God.
Well, you know, everybody likes different things. The interesting thing about anime is that it's a medium, but people treat it as a genre, where, you know, you might be into slapstick, others might be into more serious drama stuff, science fiction, fantasy. It's all kind of in one tight bubble that you can share an appreciation for something even if you don't necessarily watch the same series. And I think that's just a Western phenomenon of how anime became obtainable here. You know, it's just, they were just bringing over the best stuff they could find in Japan, and
well, not always the best stuff. I mean, you know, having been, you know, being urged and remembering lots of other things that happened in the old days. You know, there was a time when the primary means of distributing anime was on videotape, and because of profit margins, most of the anime that came over early on was porn. So anime kind of got this questionable reputation right from the get-go, and it was not uncommon to bring up the subject of anime at conventions, and people go, "Oh yeah, the tentacle rape stuff." And I'd be like, actually, I was thinking about Miyazaki, but thank you. But you know, it started out that way, and it did come mainly out of. There are people who will argue that it is a subset of science fiction fandom, which is wrong, because there were anime groups that had nothing to do with science fiction fandom long before anime conventions started being a thing. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, a lot of the early stuff that came over was kind of science fictional. You know, the whole Robotech deal, Macross, yeah, all of this stuff was primarily science fictional, and Sailor Moon, the whole magical girl fantasy thing. You know, so it kind of got a reputation as being a branch of the larger SF fantasy fandom, which made it really confusing when you started seeing anime coming over like Kimagure Orange Road, which I personally have not seen it, but my understanding is that it's basically a soap opera. There's nothing magical going on here. You know, my favorite, one of my favorite animes, as a matter of fact, is something that I hope Hollywood never gets a hold of because it would make absolutely no sense in an American context. Ai Noriyoshi, which is basically a story about a boy and a girl who are from very powerful, very old business families in Japan, and they're kind of promised to each other at a young age. But then the boy's parents die, or his father dies, and his mother, who the family did not want his dad to marry, turns the child over to the family. And when he comes of age, he finds out about all this, and he says, "No, I'm done with you. I want nothing to do with you," which is kind of awkward for them because he's the heir, right? And he basically runs off to college. Well, the girl he was engaged to never gives up on him. And when she becomes of age, she comes to Tokyo to look for him. And, you know, they accidentally meet, and comedy ensues, but also it's a very nice love story, you know. And you know, there's kind of awkwardness because for larger reasons they can't really admit that they can't admit that they're engaged to each other. So there's this awkward relationship where she gets to play landlady to him and about 3 or 4 other girls that they take in to make rent. So it's, you know, it's not really a harem comedy, but it has aspects of that, and it's a really cool love story. Yeah, and it's just an illustration of how different anime is. Like you said, it's a medium, not a genre.
So I mean, any last points? We're still 15 minutes from the technical end of the panel, but I mean,
we can only tap dance so much, folks. You have to hold up your end.
Well, I mean, yeah, the description said, you know, you can share stuff too, but I mean, you know, if there's nothing left.
Well,
Any other questions?
we can always recap. It works in anime.
It does work in anime. We could do this whole panel again as a recap of
condensed for your benefit.
The abridged.
Yeah.
Question?
Yeah. Can you summarize the tips that you have then for the con withdrawal / hangover?
I think the big one that we come out of this with is stay connected. You know, stay in touch with people that you met at the convention. Get out and do things with them through Geek Partnership Society, through Anime Twin Cities. If you're interested in the greasy organizational aspects of running the convention, show up to staff meetings. You know, yeah, you can do that too. But yeah, show up to staff meetings. Show up to the volunteer picnics if you put in the hours.
Oh, question in the back.
Yeah.
Just a heads up, I co-run an anime club that's actually located in Minneapolis. Happens every second, fourth Friday of every month. If you're interested in it all, Scott is in there with me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. We end up watching anime all the time, and it helps keep people connected.
one question I've had.
Get to know him. Get to know his club.
What is your club called? Does it have a specific name?
Sunshi. It's basically Japanese Twin Cities.
Okay.
I can never remember the proper name of it.
Yep. It's hosted, or not hosted, but it's funded and supported by GPS and Anime Twin Cities. So it's a legitimate group, and it's for any age, and we try to keep a lot of things going pretty smoothly. So everyone's welcome.
And we pick a new anime next time.
And another good way to stay connected is a Facebook page called Anime Detour 20XX. I'm one of the admins on that page.
Oh, me too.
A lot of people post there. It's another great way to stay connected. People share pictures. You can connect with people that way.
Oh, a question?
Do you guys know if Anime Twin Cities or one of its smaller organizations post a lot of stuff on Meetup or something? Because I know Zuinchi does. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know if they do or not. That'd be a good question for John Konigas, who's kind of the data guru for Anime Twin Cities and the convention. I know they're trying to get a little more into social media than they have been in the past. So ask them and find out if they're not doing meetup types, if they're not using Meetup as a tool to get people together.
Right.
Maybe it's something they need to look into.
Yeah.
And hey, worst comes to worst, do it. Put something on Meetup. Are you interested in anime? Are you interested in Japanese culture? You just want to hang out and watch Gundam Wing for the 20th time? Do it, man.
Sure.
Be proactive.
Some other good Facebook pages that I belong to: Cosplay Association of the Upper Midwest is on Facebook. Minnesota Cosplayers and Anime Detour fans are ways that I stay connected. I run my own cosplay group called Cosplay Unchained. We're small, but we did Deck City Divas last year at Detour, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I want cosplayers to join our group. You don't have to stay in the group, but do panels with us. I love doing panels. I love going to panels. Panels are a great way to stay connected because afterwards you can talk to the panelists, you can talk to the other people, get email addresses, Facebook names, Twitter names. Great way to stay connected is joining panels. Plus, being on a panel got me out of being in a funk of being scared to talk to people. I was so terrified to talk. My first convention, I was literally hiding in a corner the whole damn time. I would not talk to anybody. I clung to my friend because I was like, who the hell are all these people in costumes? What the hell is going on? Second convention, she couldn't find me because I was running around going, oh my god, you look awesome. That's where I learned about Black Butler. I learned about all these different animes. I love it. This is my social time.
So it's been good for you too, then.
Oh, it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
I learned how to sew because of this.
Oh wow! There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't just come for the anime, come for the skills.
Yeah. I actually learned how to sew from 3 different people from Detour. I've made at least 5 of my different costumes.
Outstanding.
And another thing is, do not ever be scared to buy a costume when people say you have to make your own to be a cosplayer. Bull.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an elitist take on it.
I
Let's
hate
face it, some of us just don't have the skills to do time. Or the time, yeah.
I bought my Toshiro costume because I'm not going to sit there and take my time to do all that because I work at an airport. I don't have the time to do that. I work 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. My days off, I'm asleep.
Yeah, and what it boils down to, I think, is cosplay is showing appreciation for character. People will come up to you who also like that character, and you'll forge, kind of an alliance that way.
It's all about making the connections.
Yep.
And this is just a personal take, but stay in character. If you're somebody and you know their character real well, have fun with it. Be like I have a costume of Zidane from Final Fantasy IX, and when I'm in his skin, all introversion leaves me. I become a very outgoing, confident person who I'm not really in real life, but under the exterior of a confident character, I kind of feel what it's like to be that for a little while.
You're playing the role, yeah.
Like when I cosplay Alice, I drive people nuts because I will follow a random person around and just tell them Keith stories. And I just drive people crazy.
Probably the best example of cosplay. You're one of Detour. We had this guy that showed up as Link, and he said absolutely nothing for the entire convention. He stayed in character for the entire convention.
All he did was grunt.
And I didn't, I don't think he even grunted. He just kind of gestured and stuff, and made him, and he managed to function through the whole convention that way. The second year, the first year we were at the Thunderbird. I'm sitting in operations, and in comes the Link dude. Except this time, he's got some woman with him, and she's like gorgeous. She's like, I guess she was the princess in Legend of Time or something like that. or Ocarina of Time, or whatever the hell it was. Like I said, I don't play Legend of Zelda, so I don't know who any of these people are. And she's carrying a pie plate with a triangle on it.
The Triforce.
Shh! Don't step on my punchlines. I kill you. No. And he comes in and he's still doing the gesture thing, right? And nobody in operations can figure out what the hell it is he wants. And this becomes very quickly obvious to him. And he, in frustration, he kind of throws up his hands, reaches out, and smacks the plate with the triangle on it. And immediately, the princess character goes, "Well, we came in here to operations to do to ask this, and this," and then I went, and when they left, I went, "What was that?" and everybody else in the room apparently had played Legend of Zelda, so they knew what the hell was going on. And they thought it was the funniest thing ever because he was staying completely in character. And apparently, when you play the game, there's when you hit the triangle button at certain points, the princess appears and explains things.
Oh.
It was awesome. And that, you know.
I was just gonna say that the name of the character she was playing was probably Zelda.
Ah, okay.
And there's been a Slender Man that's been wandering around.
Yeah.
When you go to the elevators, he stands by the door and doesn't move, doesn't talk. And when he walks, it is so freaking slow. He scared me 3 times. When I turned around, he's just there.
Okay.
He even came into the creepypasta panel and they lost their minds. They didn't see him for like a good 5 minutes. Because I heard the door open and I looked at him like, oh, Slender Man. Guys. Now you see him.
Weekend, did anybody catch the guy who went as drunk Vash the Stampede?
Yes. I wish I'd gotten a picture of him.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference that a lot of people don't really get between cosplayers and costumers, because costumers are just there to wear the costume and look good in it. But it's funny. The guy I first talked about this was one of the local Klingons at Convergence, and he got it right away, you know, because when he puts on the Kling, as he puts it, the beard, the ridged forehead, the whole 9 yards. You know, he's not Bill anymore. He's Grand Admiral Quab, and he's got certain, you know, he has to act in character. So, I mean, even descending to speaking English when necessary, you know, one has to deal with the Terrans, you know. So, but yeah, he got it. You know, cosplaying is taking on the role, is seeming how you want to be, and otherwise you're just wearing a costume, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But you got to be conscious of what you're doing.
But yeah, biggest tip for con hangovers is stay connected.
Yes.
Talk with people. It helps you relax. It helps you de-stress. It helps the con hangover. And also, don't get slamming drunk the day before.
Yeah.
Then there's the real hangover.
Then comes the real hangover. I did that once. I regret it so bad because the next day I had to pack and get everything ready, and I was literally hungover.
Yeah, if you develop an aversion to loud noises when you're hungover, it's all the more reason not to do it here.
Oh yes.
Early in the early days, our chief of security used to get really bent out of shape with people who got publicly wasted at Detour, either on booze or drugs, because it seems like every year we have a few of those people. And he'd say, "What the hell is wrong with these people? Why can't they stay home and get smashed instead of like picking the one weekend a year when we're doing this to come here and get smashed?" You know.
Because they're getting smashed with their friends.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, that's still no excuse, but it helps you understand. And,
if you're in a room full of cosplayers, it won't make you look as ridiculous.
Yeah, I suppose.
Nobody recognizes you when you're drunk, if you're doing with strange jokes.
Well, that doesn't always work quite as well as you think. But yeah, it's generally a good idea not to get excessively drunk at the convention. I mean, it's tempting. You are among friends, you know, aren't you? But yeah.
Well, like I said, connections are the best way to cure your hangover.
Yes.
And when you get home, just take a few hours to just relax. Curl up in your bed if you want to. Watch something that you like. Just relax. Let everything go, and then when you're ready, just unpack. I usually wait a day or two before I unpack everything.
I usually wait till the next convention. I have to pack to the next convention to unpack the previous one.
No, can't let your dirty laundry sit that long.
No.
That's just wrong. Come on.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up.
That was our episode 13 recap of Con Hangovers. Tune in next season.
We'll see.
Are we good? Thank you.
See you next.
Yep. Next year in the radish tree.
Yeah, when is it?